Hello and welcome to Self Talk. I'm your host, Rachel Astarte. Today, my guest is Nan Krueger. She's a designer who's passionate about the power of interior design. She never really fit in at school, but her sanctuary during those painful times was the home that her parents lovingly designed. Now, her mission is threefold: to design a sanctuary for every client that she has, also to make interior design available to more people, and to help save the planet in the process. Those are amazing goals to have. So welcome, Nan, first of all.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks so much for inviting me here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I'm really excited to talk about what you do. But I'd love to go back to your intro a little bit and help us to understand how you came to do what you do.
Yeah, as you mentioned in the intro, it all started in the house that I grew up in. I like to say that I grew up with designers who were disguised as parents, because they absolutely loved interior design and houses. And in the years that I was growing up in the 70s, they bought and sold a few houses. And my theory is that apart from them, goals, wanting to move, whatever, I also kind of think it was so that they could do them up. Like, oh, we have another thing, another house that we can space plan and design. And it was super fun for them. And they were an awesome team together. So I grew up with floor plans rolled out on the dining room table, and all of their, like, they had drafting supplies. They had triangles and little furniture templates. And I remember just like playing with those templates and drawing imaginary houses and apartments. And it was just super creative for me too. And of course, at the time, I was a kid. I didn't know that I would be ending up doing this for my life's work.
Yeah.
And it also makes total sense, right? Like, the thing that you've done for so much of your life, it can turn into your life's work and your life's passion. So I feel like that's what happened to me. I just grew up in that creative design environment. And my parents, they took me to art galleries, furniture stores, fabric places, the design center in Chicago.
Wow.
And I got tired of it, actually. But, I was their youngest, and, I kind of had to go with them. So, yeah, that was a huge part of my childhood.
Yeah. So it's just sort of led into doing what you do now.
Yeah.
And today we're specifically going to be talking about women in midlife and creating a space in their home where they feel comfortable, where they can go to recharge. But before we get into that, I would love for you to explain or walk us through a little bit that threefold mission that you have, each one. So starting with designing a sanctuary for every client. What does that mean to you? And why is that important?
Yes, I believe that is important because, to me, each person has their own notion of what sanctuary is for themselves. And some people can express it. Some people can pull it together. Other people can't. And I believe that there's a disconnect when you're living in a space, you're living in a house that is not totally aligned with your lifestyle, your personality, your taste, your aesthetics. And every person's version of sanctuary is different. So that is my mission for each person, is to get at what sanctuary means for them, and then express that out here in the real world in physical objects. and colors and patterns and everything else that's involved with design. So yeah, I really tune into what is it that the person is really craving to see every day, to use every day, to feel every day. So and that equals their sanctuary.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And we're going to talk more about that in a second, but moving to the next part, and which I think is also very wonderful, the idea of being able to design or make interior design available to more people. And because I know when I think of interior design, I think of the rich people, the elite, then those are the only people who can afford, and it's such a luxury. So when you say making it available to more people, what does that look like for you?
In my process of the design process, I have focused on the parts of that process that I am particularly expert at. Mm-hmm. So the design concept, the schematics, gathering materials, gathering pieces, furniture, and presenting those things to the client. Mm-hmm. And that's my wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. I'm a designer, so that's what I do best. Mm-hmm. Also, client intake and follow up afterwards. So I have decided to base my fees on my expertise. The other parts of the design process, like taking measurements, taking photographs of the existing space, and placing orders for the furniture, receiving things at the home. Those are steps that a homeowner can do. Mm-hmm. And so, and particularly with virtual interior design, what I'm speaking of right now, that is really a partnership between the client and the designer. And so when the client does some of the steps of the design process, I don't charge them to do those things. Okay. So they save a little money in that way because I'm doing my expertise and they are doing the things that they are able to do. Mm-hmm. Most people by now have placed orders online. Mm-hmm. They have received things at their home, mm-hmm. So that is usually very easy for someone to do. And once they have the floor plan that I designed for them, when a big piece of furniture arrives at their house, they'll know exactly where to ask the people to place it. Mm-hmm. The floor plan, it goes right here.
Right.
And so they are not paying for a receiver. They're not paying for storage, time and space. They're not paying me to come and do all of those things for them. Mm-hmm. So they save some money.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And that really does make it available to more people, because if the, and I think, and I wonder how you feel about this, but I think there's something really lovely about taking more of an active role in what your space looks like and feeling like you're part of it. So it sounds like your work is very collaborative.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
It's not like, this is what you need to do with your space, and this is what's hot right now, and you should, right? So
absolutely not. Like, I'm kind of the opposite of that. Yeah, I am, because trends are fun and they're exciting. Mm-hmm. And it's great to leaf through an Architectural Digest magazine. I love doing that. I love looking at high-end design. There's definitely a place for that, and it's not going anywhere. I'm just seeing the process as something slightly different and trying to, like I said, just make it a bit more available to people who don't have the, high-end budget. Because it's funny, Rachel, because you said, when you think of interior design, you think of the luxury of it. Right. And it definitely is a luxury service on so many levels. But for me, at the same time, like, it's an essential.
Mm-hmm.
It's essential to live in the space that lights you up,
Mm-hmm.
that works for you, that you feel comfortable in, that you feel excited to invite people over to.
Right.
I just feel like it's a luxury and an essential.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before we started recording today, I think I said something like that. Like, people overlook the importance of their surroundings because it's like, well, I've got the house and there's something to sit on and there's something to put my food or drink on, and that's it, and so I don't worry too much about anything else. So let's look at the third one, which is also very intriguing: helping save the planet in the process. How does that work in your business?
The I love the notion of trying to save the planet because I love our planet. It's our home. And I would like to see it last a bit longer. So one of the things that I came up with, I thought, okay, so how can I incorporate this notion into my business? Because it's important to me, so I feel like it's important to other people.
Mhm.
So one way of doing that is to not enter into renovations.
Mm-hmm.
Renovations and demolition debris is like, it's millions of tons of waste in our landfill every year.
Mm-hmm.
And the less we contribute to the landfill, I figure the better it is for the world, right?
Yeah.
So if you really love the bones of your home, it's like the easiest place for me to start,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not thinking about construction. We're not thinking of knocking things down.
Right.
And again, like Architectural Digest, like the luxury design, it's really fun to do that. And, back when I was a kid, my parents did that. They would knock down walls. They did all the space planning. They redid it all inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fun. And it didn't square with me for the reason of trying to save the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So why contribute more waste,
Yeah, yeah. And what about furniture, in terms of, do you throw out the couch you have, or do you which I'm sure one might do, but do you work with refurbished companies that offer refurbished furniture, or how does that work? I mean, I'm
Yes.
not saying maybe is that one of the options you offer, or how does that work in your business?
Yes, it's definitely one of the options. I would love to incorporate more secondhand items into my designs. And so that's what I'm looking towards for the future, is people who are open to that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, in any given town or city, there's probably at least one secondhand furniture shop somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
or within driving distance. There are also lots of secondhand shops online now.
Yes.
So that is also available.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to reuse the pieces that the client already has when those pieces are in good shape,
Mm-hmm.
and when they relate to the new design, when we can incorporate them. Definitely we reuse things.
Mm-hmm.
One client, she had a sofa. It was a beautiful camelback sofa that had very delicate legs, very traditional, but not heavy. It was really nice, a little rolled arm. And the fabric on it was just old and done.
Mm-hmm.
So we chose a beautiful, rich, textury, neutral fabric for that little sofa. And it's a knockout. And, she will be able to use it now with, in any room, anywhere, anytime during her life, until that fabric falls apart.
Right.
So, um, and I need to say, that is not a cheap way to go. If people are thinking, oh, well, that'll be inexpensive, it's not always cheap, and it's not always about, pinching the dollar either. It's about rescuing the piece that was still completely good, save for the original fabric.
Right. Same as the bones of the house. It's the bones of a piece of furniture that needs to just be zhuzhed. Yeah.
Exactly. We all need some zhuzhing after
I know.
a few
Exactly.
years,
Exactly.
And then just like, maybe we need a chair in this corner. Oh, I've got this chair upstairs in the bedroom that might work. Let's think literally like that. Let's think, what do you already have in your house? And start there. And then what do we fill in with? That's either repurposed, secondhand or new. I'm not against buying new things when it's appropriate.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts, no pun intended. And then you're also keeping an eye toward protecting our environment, which is a beautiful thing. So let's shift a little bit into the main topic, which is working with women in midlife to create a space for them. So when you and I were emailing about talking today, you'd said you really wanted to help women in midlife to create a space at home where they can do the work they're dreaming about, where they have exactly what they need, which already just makes my heart flutter because it's so important. So in my work with clients, and we do what's called a solitude practice. And I encourage my clients to take some time alone, for them to do what gives them joy, whatever that might be, whether it's meditating or yoga or knitting or whatever, but something that journaling. And so having a dedicated space for that is essential, which can be difficult if you live with other people, or if you live alone, but you're in a small space. But, so let's talk first of all, a little bit about your thoughts. Why is it so important in particular for women in midlife to have a sacred space that's just theirs?
I think that I'm in midlife, I'm 61. And I think that I'll just say from my own point of view, it helps to keep me grounded. It helps to keep me on track with what I'm doing. It keeps me, it's weird to say conscious because we're always conscious, but aware, maybe that's a better word, of how I'm feeling physically when I stop and take a bit of time for myself. Am I centered in my body? Am I in the right mind? Am I in a receiving mood? And I think that those questions are best answered when I'm just being myself, just sitting by myself, not trying to work, not trying to talk to someone, not trying to do other things, but just to be. Just still for 5 minutes. And not necessarily even meditating per se, but just taking some breaths.
Which is its own kind of meditation.
There's
so many different ways to meditate, which is a whole other thing we'll talk about it some other time. But I completely understand what you're saying. And so what advice would you give to a woman in midlife who has no space of her own? Let's say she's got a partner and maybe a kid, or 2 or 5 or whatever, or just a bunch of, maybe roommates. I don't know. But it's very difficult to carve out individual space. What advice or how might that woman think differently about her home or apartment? Where could one find a little space for herself?
Exactly. I think it's perhaps a good thing to start in the bedroom. So the bedroom is an intimate space anyway. So is there a little tiny corner of your bedroom where you might be able to just squeeze in a side chair, or even just a poof, a little stool, and to bring in perhaps a little rug that would feel nice under your feet or sitting on. I mean, maybe not even a poof, maybe just a little rug in a corner with a pillow next to the wall. A rug and a pillow, honestly, that's all you would really, really, really need to signal to yourself, oh, this is my space. Right. This is my corner of the world where I can have whatever rug I want. I can have whatever pillow I want. Yeah. And it can be there for me all the time. Yeah. So you can have a little rug and a pillow in a corner. I actually figured out that in my bedroom, the corners are taken up, but there's this wall between the closet door and the window. And we have a chair sitting there. And I figured out, oh, if I just pull the cushion off the chair, shift the chair over, set the cushion down right in front of that little tiny space of wall, I have myself a meditation space.
Wow. That's simple.
It really is that simple. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to do any construction, or you don't even have to paint. It's just bringing in one or two objects that are really comforting for you and comfortable, where it just feels like, yes, I can just be here. Yeah. I can close the door and just spend time.
Yeah. Or maybe even a little room divider that just sections that little part off. Because, when you have other people that you're living with and they're traipsing through your sacred space,
yes.
I mean, in my book, Celebrating Solitude, which is where the solitude practice is described in detail, there's a whole chapter on creating a sacred space, including making yourself a little altar, which doesn't necessarily have to be a religious or I mean, it's spiritual in its own way, but just with items that you love nearby, to have that nearby for just an extra energy boost,
Yes.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So it can be done, is what you're saying. It's funny because this last week in the news, I read a silly little article. I don't know even why I clicked on it, but it just because we were talking. Drew Barrymore, the actress and talk show hostess, has a walk-in closet that she turned into a meditation room. Cool. And so she has it's a tiny little space where really it's just maybe 8 inches on either side of her body, when she's in the center of it. And then all the walls are posted with affirmations and things like that. Now she had candles burning in there, which I had a little question about. Maybe it was just for the picture, but it made me think like how innovative we can get with the spaces that we already have.
Exactly. It takes a little bit of lateral thinking. Like she decided, okay, if I just pull out all the clothes from in here, I have enough space.
Yeah. You can actually see where the rods used to be because they have the attachment things, and there are no rods in there anymore. And she's just covered all over everything with her own little affirmations and notes and things like that. It's very cute.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So, so let's talk too about if you do have space, let's say you could dedicate something like a closet or a little room. What are your thoughts about, especially for women in midlife? What are your thoughts about making that room just yours? Is that something that is being too exclusive? Are you pushing family out? I mean, do you ever encounter that with clients? Like, I need a space that's just mine and I don't want anyone else to go in there. How do you navigate that?
I have not actually run into that before. And I also think that it's totally fine for a woman to decide, okay, this small room is going to be my space. Because, we have our own bedroom. Our children have their own bedroom. In some houses, the children have their own bathroom. We carve out spaces for ourselves,
right,
in whatever dwelling we have. And I think that's totally in keeping with that, So why would it be a bad thing? I don't see it as keeping other people out. I see it as something that's really healthy for us to do, in order to be available for all the people in our lives.
Yes, so,
absolutely. Yeah, I don't see it as keeping people out. Now, there might be some work to be done if the other people in the house see it that way. So that's another issue altogether, I think. But I would encourage women to go for it. I don't see it as something that exclusive. I see it as something healthy.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that's all that needs to be said about that. I agree. And what you said, which I'll just touch back on again, is so important, which is when you have a space that's yours to recharge and regenerate, and you're actually giving back to those people. If we don't have that downtime, if we don't have that time in solitude, and I loved how you described your solitude time, we get drained, we get overwhelmed, we lose our temper, we get resentful, and that's no help to anybody. No. Right. So that's the whole purpose for doing something like this.
Yeah. Exactly. It's so, we can take the next step, in a grounded way,
right,
instead of being dysregulated, when we feel like, it's too frustrating, or I've got to take a break. Having a little space like that, that you have it, know that you can escape to it, and that it will help you calm down and get centered.
Yeah.
So maybe just knowing that it's available is also really supportive.
Yeah, that's true too. That's my space, and I can go and use it when I need to use it. Beautiful. And I think you touched on this earlier, but you do your work virtually. Is that correct?
I am longing to do my work virtually, actually. My clients up to now have been in person. I've had one virtual client, and it was super fun. And it just has happened that my clients have been in person, 99% of the time up to now. But I am really longing to open up my virtual design part of my business, because I know it's ideal to be able to go to the actual space. That's ideal. And if there are people out there who need design help and they don't have access to a real life designer, they don't have the budget for a real life designer, then we can do it online.
Right.
Right. We can
do it online. Where are you based? So people will know.
Yeah, I'm just outside of Boston in Maynard, Mass.
Okay. So that's an option for people who live there. And you're saying, if not, then virtual is something that you could certainly discuss with clients. Fantastic. And how can people find you online?
My website is called mygroovyhome.com. The business is called Groovy Home. And I think the website is a good place to go, because also my blog is there. Okay. And that is under the Learn More tab, and it comes down and it says blog. And that is really what I have been doing with the other half of my time, which is writing about design and getting my words out there.
Mm.
And I've built up a good amount of blog posts now, and people can really get a really good idea of my point of view, my approach to design, my ideas, because I love writing about ideas. Oh, you could do this, you could do that, and you try that. And so that's mostly what my blog is about. So I'd encourage people to go there. And then just looking around the rest of my site, it is a bit under construction at the moment.
I was just there. It looked great.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. Good.
It's undergoing interior design, is it?
Yes. Yes, we're redesigning it.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, but anyway, everything's always a work in progress, isn't it? So
yes, of course.
Yeah, so
beautiful. So people can reach you at mygroovyhome.com.
yes.
You're also on Facebook at Groovy Home, at Groovy Home. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll have all these links in the show notes, but yeah.
Okay. Because I think I have a Pinterest link as well, and that has.
Yes, I have the Pinterest link, and so I'm going to put that in the show notes as well, and then you can really see some of this stuff. But it's a great way to start if you have no idea where to start. So beautiful. Nan, thank you so much for being on Self Talk today. I'm so grateful that we talked about something that seems so something we overlook. It's just we don't think about the space that we spend our time in, and I really appreciate your approach.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It was really fun to talk to you, and I love talking about this topic.
Yeah, and I can tell, and I really do encourage the listeners to go to the website and read the blog and maybe get in touch with Nan. So thank you so much.
Thank you.